acting on the notices, but lawmakers insist they're acting within the Constitution and urge calm. Right now, lawyer and public affairs analyst Abdul Karim Musa joins us from Abuja for more on this story. Thank you so much, Mr. Musa, for joining us. Let's look at a situation at play in Rivers State. A court ordered a stay of impeachment process, yet the Chief Justice, after of course, this fact is acknowledging receipt of the impeachment notice. What do you make of this situation as a legal practitioner? Is there a violation of the rule of law or any breach whatsoever here?
Yes, as it is, the law is tried that whenever there is an order of court, parties are bound to obey that order, no matter how unreasonable it may seem to any of the parties. Insofar as that court order has not been set aside by another court of competent jurisdiction, a court order must be obeyed. And in the face of the court order, barring the Chief Judge from receiving any notice of impeachment or allegation against the sitting governor, the Chief Judge ought not to proceed in the face of that order to receive the notice that he's been said to receive.
Now, I'd like to know, what are the next steps you would, expect of the Chief Judge to take, having acknowledged receipt of the impeachment notice, bearing in mind the court order?
Well, the Chief Judge being the Chief Law Officer of, the Chief Judge being a custodian of the law in whose bosom we expect that the law resides, should do the right thing by obeying the order of court and responding appropriately. And the parties to that suit should file necessary processes if they feel that the order is inappropriate. If they feel that the court did not have jurisdiction to render such an order, they should appeal the decision so that the order will be set aside. So it is a simple and straightforward thing that the Chief Judge is expected to obey the court order, but to look beyond the court order and consider the real issue at stake, which is the impeachment procedure on allegations of gross misconduct against the sitting governor. It's my personal view that that impeachment procedure is rooted in selfish, self-serving, and parochial, primordial political sentiment, and not necessarily in the interest of the people of Rivers State. It is an engagement of the institutions of the state to project personal political ambitions, whereas that process of impeachment as provided in Section 188 of the Constitution is not meant to settle political scores. The procedure for impeachment is meant to address issues of accountability, issues of gross misconduct on the part of political office holders. What we are seeing in this case is a situation where the political players are engaging that section, engaging the nation. The National Assembly are constituting themselves as a political bloc to project their political interests, using courts, using the National Assembly as a vehicle. But that is not the intendment of the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, being the chief legal officer of the state, can a chief judge of a state be held in contempt?
Of course, nobody is above the law. The chief judge should know better than any lawyer in that state that he ought to obey an order insofar as that order was given by a court of competent jurisdiction, notwithstanding how unreasonable the order may be. Until that order is set aside, everybody must obey the order. Nobody is above the law, including the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who by the provisions of the Constitution has immunity. Notwithstanding this immunity in certain areas, if there is a court order directing that a government agency, a political office holder should conduct himself or do an act in a certain way, nobody is too high and mighty to obey a court order. So it is the chief judge, it is my advice to the chief judge of Rivers to communicate to the Nigerian people that he respects the law that he is chief of by abiding by the decision of the court. Meanwhile, that decision, that order is not a perpetual injunction. It's just an injunction. It's an interim injunction that hold on the procedure of impeachment, and it's to last for 7 days until the other parties, until the order becomes, until the processes go, the motion, the interlocutory application is heard. So it just, the order is to last for just 7 days. And so I see no reason why the chief judge should proceed to receiving a notice that an order of court has barred him from receiving.
Let's take a closer look now at the issues for which the State Assembly commenced the impeachment process of the governor in the first place. What do you make of them? You know, there are talks about misconduct and, most importantly, saying that the governor and the deputy did not submit the budget for 2026. What's your reaction to that?
Well, you see, these issues are clearly stated, like I stated earlier, by Section 188 of the Constitution. A governor can be removed for issues of gross misconduct. Now, the procedure around the removal of a governor on the question of gross misconduct are set out in that Section 188. But from the political unfolding that we have seen in Rivers State, it is apparent that this impeachment procedure initiated against the sitting governor is not rooted in any desire for the progress of the state, is not rooted in any genuine concern for the people of Rivers State. It is rather tailored towards settling personal political scores, political vendetta, or exacting revenge by a political bloc. Ordinarily, if the governor is indicted for an act of gross misconduct, the normal procedure is that an allegation is brought up in the House of Assembly, signed by 1/3 of the members of the House of Assembly. A notice is sent to the governor demanding him to respond to those allegations. He then responds to the allegation, and if the House of Assembly is not satisfied with his response, that is when the House of Assembly now sends a notice to the chief judge to set up a panel of persons of unquestionable character who do not belong to any political party or legislative house to now investigate. When that panel investigates the allegations leveled against the governor, then he sends his report within a period of 3 months back to the House of Assembly. The House of Assembly considers that report and then decides whether that report either indicting the governor, or the report would either say the governor has been indicted, or that the allegations against the governor has not been sufficiently proved. Then a resolution of not less than 2/3 of the members of the House of Assembly would be passed, and the governor shall stand removed if the House so finds. Now, this procedure affords the governor the opportunity of defending himself. So it is not a straitjacket procedure where, because an allegation is leveled, we now conclude that the governor must be impeached. It doesn't matter that the entire members of the House of Assembly are determined to remove the governor. It doesn't matter that they do not like the governor. The only condition that they can remove the governor is if the governor can, if they can prove that the governor has conducted himself in ways that are contrary to the provisions of the Constitution and the laws by which the office of the governor is established.
Now, the governor now has largely been quiet in the face of this current crisis with the State Assembly. Do you think it is a deliberate and a good tactics for him to employ?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I said the governor, he's been quiet of late in terms of this whole, since this current crisis with the State Assembly started. We've not really heard anything official from him. Do you think this is a deliberate, and do you think this is a good way to go about it?
Well, I cannot really tell if that is the best political strategy for him, because that is a question of political strategy. Because all the while, we have seen that there have been repeated crises and controversy and scuffle between the governor, sitting governor, and the former governor and the minister of FCT. This has led to a declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, which many of us condemn and will still condemn until today. There was a resolution, there was a political settlement reached by both parties. Certain terms must have been reached in the political settlement that was reached. And as it is, hostility has arisen again between the parties, which means that one of the parties did not comply with the terms that they agreed on previously. The quietness of Team Fubara is not material to Nigerians. What is material to the Nigerian people is whether or not these people are engaging the law for the benefit of the people of Rivers State, or they are using state institutions as a means or a mechanism to promote or advance their political, personal interests. So the quietness of Sim Fubara, just like he has been quiet all the while, does not seem to me to be anything material or worth considering. It would have been a situation where people would rise up in support of the sitting governor, in criticism and condemnation of the current FCT minister, who has distracted himself from his duties in the FCT and decided to launch into the politics of Rivers State. We would have risen up. But the same system that brought the sitting governor and the same system by which the sitting governor has operated is the same system that is fighting him. So it is not a case of somebody being oppressed. It is purely a political issue that can only be resolved by political means. And at the end of the day, the issues would only be resolved by who has more political might. But conclusively, it is best that in all this that they are doing, the interest of the Nigerian people, the people of Rivers State, should be at the fore.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Abdulkareem Musa, for having this conversation with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Still watching news now on News Central Television. We're going on a short break. When we return, there's more.